Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Roxanne Camajo. I'm with Lakeland Bank. I am the Community Development Officer. And basically, what my job entails at Lakeland Bank is to work with our community. Our community is very important. And even during the pandemic, we find alternative ways to still be have our finger on the pulse in knowing what the community needs. And one of the things we're realizing is financial literacy awareness is needed. So today we are going to talk about managing your money and the different ways that you can manage your money. So let's start with that. Let's see here. There we go. So this is what we're going to cover today. And it's about like 40 minutes. So please, after the fifth slide, I will pause and see if anyone has questions. If you do have a question, I would suggest to type it in the chat box. Do we have a chat box? We do, right? So I would suggest type it in the chat box and then we'll look at it and we'll answer the question if you are afraid that you're going to forget your question. So these are the topics we're going to cover today. We're going to talk about bank accounts and fees, ATMs and debit cards. There's a difference. Online banking, which is huge now. Individuals who never used online banking, like senior citizens, now use online banking because of the pandemic. Because for a period of time, a lot of financial institutions, their doors were closed, right? We're going to talk about budgeting, emergency savings, credit cards, credit reports, and identity theft. I know it seems like a lot of information to cover in 40 minutes, but believe me, we're going to cover the main parts for each. And you can always invite me back to really go into nuts and bolts about like credit report or identity theft. We do offer more in detailed presentation on those specific topics. So one of the quotes that we use is an investment is knowledge pays the best interest, right? Being financial literate provides the knowledge, experience, and ability to make better decisions regarding your future. And that's just something I think just with education, right? We were talking about virtual learning. Our kids still, even in this environment today, they have to keep learning. And just with our money, we have to keep learning how to, what's the best way to spend our money? What's the best way to save? So it's very important for us to be knowledgeable about our money. First thing, now, believe it or not, there is still tons of Americans that do not have a bank account. They will take their checks that they work hard for and go to a cash place and let the cash place take 2% of their hard-earned money so they can cash their check. If you had a checking account or a savings account or direct deposit, you'd be able to not pay anybody else the hard work that you've done the last week or two to get your paycheck. So there's still a need for education on why banking and checking is important, because there's still people making money out of cashing somebody's check. They're pulling 2-3%, and that's it. That's ridiculous. So this is why we thought it's important to just talk about checking accounts. So checking account, for those who don't know, there are different types of checking accounts too. There's student checking accounts, there's senior checking accounts. So it's important to know what's the best checking account for me. So when you go and open a checking account with your financial institution, you want to let them know, because believe it or not, if you're a student, that means going to school and you're under the age of 24 years old, you can qualify for a student checking account, which there aren't any fees tied to that account, as opposed to a regular checking account, right? So this is why it's important for you to shop around and see which is the best fit for you or your family member. So a checking account, is used to pay for everyday expenses. You're not going to use a savings account to pay your electricity bill, your car loan, your mortgage. No, it's going to be a checking account. You get deposits and withdrawals can be made with the cash, checks, debit cards, or online banking. That is a checking account. Now, a savings account, it's really used for saving your money. You can have an ATM card, and it could be accessed through online banking, but there's no real too much withdrawing from your checking, your savings account. The purpose of a savings account is to save your money. Another good account to have is a CD, also known as a certificate of deposit. Now, this is an account where you decide, I just got a refund from the IRS, or I got my stimulus money, and I don't want to use this $1,500 or $600 it's extra money for me. So I don't want to touch it, because I know if I'm going to put it in my checking account, I'm probably going to spend it on Amazon or something. So I'm going to put it in a CD, and I'm not going to touch that account for 9 months. And it's going to give me an interest rate of, I don't know, 1.2. I'm just making this up. So then now I've committed to giving my $1,500 of my refund to a CD to ABC Bank, and they're going to hold that money for 9 months. In 9 months, I get that interest rate, and that's how that works. Now, it doesn't have to be 9 months. It could be 13 months. It could be 15 months. It could be 24 months. It could be 36 months. And each time period term has a different interest rate sometimes. So that is one way you can also save. Now, let's say there's an emergency and I need those $1,500, and I still got 3 months left on that 9-month CD. I can break the contract and take the money out, but I'm going to pay a fee, a penalty for breaking the contract, and I'm not going to get the interest rate. Okay. So a lot of people did this, still use CDs because it's safe. You know what you're getting at the end, unlike stocks, right? Stocks can go up, it can go down. A CD is safe because you know what you're making after that term. So that's another option. So let me go to the next slide. But does anybody have any questions in regards to savings account, checking accounts, or CDs? Okay. So just keep in mind with the checking account, if you are a student or you have a kid who is a student and they're between 18 and 24 years old and they're going to college or some kind of vocational school, they shouldn't be paying like a fee of $15 a month for having, $1 in their account, because there are banks that offer, no minimum balance for student checking accounts. So keep that in mind and shop around, even for seniors. Anyone, I believe, definition as a senior is like 55 and plus. So anyone that some banks offer senior checking accounts. So that's another option. So now let's get into why people don't want to have a bank account. This is one of the reasons why we understand some Americans keep money underneath their mattress or in a shoebox because of the fees. Believe it or not, it is scary, right? You hear a lot of stories, right? You heard about that one bank. I don't want to go into detail, but that charged individuals some kind of fees or opened up accounts without without their permission. Banks get their hands smacked for doing stuff like that. We all know that. And then they have to kind of go through the whole rebranding, right? But these are fees that need to be pretty much explained to a customer when they open up an account. So the service fees, a monthly charged, right? It's usually charged every month, may be waived if it requires a minimum balance to maintain. So somebody might say to you, "Oh, Caroline, we can open up a checking account for you today, but the minimum balance has to be $100 a month. If you go under $100, then we're going to charge you $15. But if you stay at $100, that means there is no maintenance or service fee at all." So that's what they mean by service fee. It's to maintain the account. So you want to be very clear when you open up a checking account, you understand that, or that your senior understands it, or the student understands that, whether or not there's a monthly maintenance fee for having a certain amount of money on that account. Overdraft fee. This sometimes surprised me whenever I get an overdraft fee. I'm like, I went under, I didn't realize. So, but it is in non-sufficient funds. Now, if you're required to have $100 in your account, And now you've gone even under $100 and there's insufficient funds or non-sufficient funds, it's considered bouncing a check, like it says on the presentation. There's going to be a charge for that. And I'll go what those charges are below. Now, an ATM or debit charge, this we all know. And sometimes we get hit twice, right? I'm banking with ABC Bank. That's my bank. But I'm nowhere near ABC Bank today. I am by XYZ Bank. And I need those $20 because I want the cheaper gas, right? So I go to XYZ Bank. I pull out $20. Now I get hit for $2 because I use XYZ Bank, and it'll tell you that you've been charged because it's not your bank. And when I get my monthly statement at the end of the month, I get charged another $2 from my ABC Bank because I didn't use their. So this is why you want to really read the fine print when you open up accounts, because sometimes that happens. Sometimes your bank won't charge you, but the other bank will. And sometimes both banks will charge you. So now you're thinking, I might as well have just paid with my credit card instead of pulled out cash for that gas. So those are just some examples. A debit card advance fee, charge if you go below checking account. Now this does happen, but it's charged for 5 days. So if I go below, I charge something and it's under my balance, they can't charge me again every day until I make the payment. It's every 5 days. That is a recent, I wouldn't say recent, it's been like 5 or 6 years now that they changed that law, or maybe even longer. But before, you got charged every day that you didn't put money into that account for having the insufficient funds. But laws have been passed now. It's the charge is per purchase to 5 days. So, but you have to keep an eye on your account to make sure you don't go under, right? So that's very important. So what are these charges? What are these costs for us? An ATM fee could be $5. I haven't seen $5 yet, but they're saying the average could be $3 or $2. Overdraft fee, an average of $33. An average a debit card advance fee, because I went under the $100. I went under zero balance. That's $35. That's significant. So if you're an individual that's not keeping track of the amount of money you have in your account, this might be a reason why banking might not be for you, because now you're getting charged $35 every month, $33, another $5 for ATM. So it's very important to keep your eye on your spending and the money that's coming in, and that every time the transactions go in, you know what your balance is so you don't go under. So avoid these fees, use your bank's ATM network, maintain a minimal balance, and check balances to avoid non-sufficient funds. Do you guys have any questions before I go? That was a lot of information, so I just want to make sure.
Are there any institutions, Roxy, which hold funds from your debit card? I've experienced that in the past, but that was like way back in the day, and I'm not sure if it still happens now.
Hold funds for your credit card.
On your debit card.
I don't think I don't understand the question.
So,
Give me an example.
so at a gas station, and someone from my bank told me this years ago, so I don't use my debit card anymore. I didn't have a credit card at the time. So on my debit card, if let's say I fill up my tank with gas and the charge is $30, there would be a hold of $60 from that, from the gas station until they got their $30, and then they would release the funds.
No.
And so two things that lady told, and like I said, this was way, way back in the day, and she told me, don't use my credit card at gas stations, my debit card, sorry, at gas stations. And she also said the cable bill was the other one. So since then, I have not been doing that. So I was wondering if that had changed.
Yeah.
Because my person has since retired, so
Yeah.
I don't know anymore.
I think that's a great question. I personally, this is the first time I'm ever hearing of an experience like that. I use my debit card all the time at gas stations, and I've never been charged double. Like,
no, they're not charging. It's just a hold.
Yeah, they never hold.
Okay, so
Yeah,
maybe that has changed. Thank
maybe
you.
that has changed. But I will definitely ask one of the managers that have been with the bank for several years, just to see if that's something that was practiced. Because now I'm curious, is that something that they would do? Hold until the transaction was clear? That
Hmm.
that's interesting. Okay, all right.
Uh,
Thank you.
Yeah.
Roxy, it's Caroline. I actually have a question like similar to what she's saying. Like say the other day I went to get gas at Costco. The guy punches in 100, but say it only takes 40, but he punched in 100 and I don't know why. I guess I said fill it. So in his mind it's going to take $100 to fill it. So I have seen them punch in numbers, but I don't know, like she's saying, what happens after that. Like I've never paid attention to see if there was a hold or not, but
Right.
I do know that that's what I have seen the guy do it,
Right.
and then say it takes $45 and then I guess they put through the exact amount, but I don't know, like if there ever was a hold, I never really checked.
Yeah, I would definitely check. I would never, because normally when I go to a gas station, they put the card in and they just wait until it's filled, and then it says the amount that's filled 2517, some random number, and that's the receipt I get when I get my debit card back after they pull. So that's very different.
I mean,
Like,
I do get the right receipt. I do, but I just noticed that they do punch in the higher number. I do notice that.
I will definitely ask, because that's the two of you, because maybe it's the same thing, and that's strange, especially with gas stations. So I will follow up and I will touch base on that. I promise, because for the two of you to say you've seen that happen, it's not a coincidence. I'll look into it for you, but thank you for sharing. I appreciate it. So these are two different types of cards. An ATM card, a lot of people don't use them anymore because an ATM card only connects you to your saving and checking account. It allows you to withdraw the money from the local bank, transfer funds to the ATM, but that's it. It cannot be used to make purchases. So a lot of times, nobody gets ATMs. I mean, some old school people might like ATMs because that's what they've done in the past, but what's really sold is the debit cards. Debit cards you can utilize for everything. People who are scared to have credit cards because maybe of a bad experience in the past will use their own money as the debit card to purchase, and they know that they paying for it and they're not, they're not owing anybody money. So that's what a debit card is. And clearly, it says a debit card to make purchase for money is deducted automatically to your account. The debit card lets you spend money without writing a check. That is the genius behind debit cards. And I don't think too many people use ATM cards anymore because you can't really, it just sits in your wallet unless you're doing transactions in the bank. All right, online banking. So prior to COVID, a lot of our seniors would come to our branch every day and ask about their balances and ask about the transaction they'd made, and some of the branch managers go line by line to help our seniors because they're old school. They did not want to go online. They were worried somebody would steal their identity online. But since COVID, life, it's changed. Now seniors know how to use their smartphones. They have been taught to make transactions. Prior to COVID, I'm going to be honest, I have never made an online, what do you call the thing when you take a photo of your check and then it goes deposit into, never, ever, ever prior to COVID. Once COVID happens, I started, when I would get a check in the mail for whatever reason, I would take a picture of it and deposit. And I was like, wow, this is brilliant. There's no need to go to the branch. Could do it right here. And what they've also done, a lot of financial institutions, there was a cap on how much you can deposit online. I mean, through your mobile deposits. I think it was $1,000, but because of COVID, they upped it to like $4,000 now. Different banks have different amounts, but they upped that deposit because of the pandemic. And they understand a lot of people feel uncomfortable going into branches because of the pandemic. So online,
Mobile deposit.
say that,
Sorry, my brain. A mobile deposit. My brain just kicked in.
yes, a mobile deposit. So believe me, I never did a mobile deposit until the pandemic. You get a check, let's say a refund check for something, you get it, you take a picture, you have the bank that you work with, you have their app, and then it gives you the option to take a picture of the front of the check. In the back of the check, you sign it, you take a picture of the back of the check, and then you write how much money you're getting, how much money is on the check, and then which account you want it, whether it's your checking account, your savings account, your money market account, and then it will deposit it for you. I know. And then you keep the check. It's like amazing. So I know a lot of people were doing this years ago, but I jumped on that wagon during the pandemic. So a lot of seniors have been using it as well. So now banks have upped their game with their mobile apps. A lot of banks have their own personal apps. It's no longer just a website. So you can use your smartphone, your tablet, a computer to access the account. And it's secured. It keeps track of your money. You can see the transfer between your different accounts. You can pay your PSE&G bill, your Suez bill, your rent. Everything can be paid online as long as the collector has an account to be paid to, right? It doesn't have to be through Venmo. You know, this is more safe than doing a cash app when you're paying your bills. You don't want to use a cash app because there's no tracking sometimes. This is coming out of your account and it's going directed to the person that you owe the money to. It's quick, convenient. You don't have to go to the branch. There's no waiting for a monthly statement. You can look at your account and your transactions daily. So, okay. So what are your financial goals? So from all the different types of accounts that we just discussed, we also want to talk about budgeting. Budgeting is a plan to help balance your expenses with your income. It is so important to budget. Every January, I sit down and I go over our bills. And I know it sounds weird. It's every year. Why don't you do it every month? But I do it at the beginning of the year because I feel like a fresh start. What am I going to cut back? What do we need more of? Do my daughters need extra tutoring because of this virtual learning? How can we budget for that? So this gives you better control of your money too. If you're planning for a vacation or you're planning for an anniversary or something, this is one way for you to budget. So then you don't charge it on your credit card. Credit cards is another topic, but sometimes paying for a trip with, you know, your savings is better than on your credit card because that credit card will collect interest. So this is why budgeting definitely helps. Prioritizing how you spend on your needs and wants. Now, since this is an intimate group, can somebody tell me what is a need and what is a want? Give me an example of a need and give me an example of a want. Come
Go
on.
ahead, Caroline.
I was just thinking, I don't need a new car, but I want a new car. I'll go in reverse. Yeah, I need a want.
There you go. A want is a car, but
Yeah.
it could be both. It could be kind of both because sometimes transportation is a daily necessity, right? Especially in the state of New Jersey. But I like the way you said it. All right. Another example of a need is food, right? That is a need. Shelter, rent, those are needs, but transportation is up there. I would say it's like the top 5, right? Besides clothing, shelter, food, I think it's up there. A want is more like, I want the HBO channel. I want the Showtime channel. But we all know internet now is a need, right? Like internet is a need if you have kids at home. I mean, it's a need pretty much for everyone at this point, because there's no other way to communicate with other individuals besides a regular phone, a regular telephone or cell phone. But so those are needs: shelter, food, clothing, and wants are like that cable and that extra, right? So those are the differences. And this is how you prioritize your budget. You prioritize your budget by what is the most important. You know you need to have a roof over your head. You know you need to have food. If you have your kids in daycare, you know that's a need. That is not a want, right? So that's how you prioritize everything when you're going down your list. And identify wasteful spending habits, like going to Dunkin' Donuts every morning and ordering out, or having that extra 400 channels that you never really look at because you're always watching shows on Netflix or Amazon Prime. Those are ways you can identify wasteful spending, okay? And this helps you reduce your debt. It really does. When you write it all down, it helps you reduce your debt. And it helps you establish emergency savings fund. Now, I'm going to be honest here and say that when the pandemic happened, I was paying childcare, after childcare, right? After hours, right? For, from 3 to 6 o'clock until I got home from work. So when the pandemic, that wasn't being offered anymore. So I was like, oh, I am going to save some money. I was like, this is amazing. But what happened during the pandemic? Everybody started shopping like if it was the end of the world. So instead of me saving the first from March till August, because I didn't even put them in summer camp this last year. Instead of me saving all that money, I was spending it on zhuzhing up the house, zhuzhing up the backyard, So and I look back now, but from September to now, I nipped that in the bud because I'm still not sending my kids to aftercare because I don't see the need for it, like, especially during this environment. I'm working something out with my job where I can work from home, go into the office, 2 times a week. But this is something that, I was able to say, I didn't save during those months, but these months I'm going to really try to put that money aside. And that's how you budget. That's how you start seeing, okay, well, I did wasteful spending. How am I going to make up for it? Let me not, test yourself. I'm not going to buy anything on Amazon for 30 days. Can I do it? And test yourself. Or if you're shopping a lot at Target because they can deliver now, or if it's Instacart, then try to, put a challenge to yourself and see how much you save. That is how you can do it. So definitely have an emergency fund. It's a great tool to save money and plan for the future. Maybe goals can be different: starting your own business, owning your first home, or vacationing to Europe, whatever it is. That can be your emergency fund, that can be your vacation fund, that can be your holiday fund. So why have an emergency fund? Because we know there are especially during the pandemic, a lot of people went on furlough for way too long or lost their jobs completely. So this is why an emergency fund is needed. And if we don't have one, that's okay. We can start, and we can start with $20 a month or $20 a week, putting $20 aside, saying these $20 are going to go for my emergency fund for 2022 in case something happens. Because these in the front of the screen right now are examples of emergencies. You drop your cell phone and now there's a crack in the screen. How much is that going to cost you? You know how many people I see with cracks on their screen? I have a crack on my screen. I'm not going to go fix it because I just think it's too expensive. But these are reasons why to have an emergency. Or you need new tires for the snowstorm. The place unexpectedly closes for 2 weeks. Our environment. Now it's been it's been 12 months. Your roommate moves out and the rent is due tomorrow. So these are different examples of why an emergency fund is needed. Credit cards. So we were talking a little bit about credit cards, and credit cards, as we know, is used to make a purchase without cash. The transaction is basically a loan with terms of payment and interest charges. So what do we know about credit cards? Offer a set limit for you to borrow. When you apply and you get approved, they tell you, $500, $2,000, $5,000, whatever. That is your set amount. You cannot go over that amount. You can charge a fixed or variable interest rate. They need to disclose that to you in the fine print, even though we don't read it sometimes, we need to read it. The option to pay minimal payment each month, which you should never pay minimal payment each month because it will take you 10 years to pay that loan back. You should try to at least double up the minimum payment so you can be debt free sooner. Some credit cards, you have to read the fine print, charge an annual fee. The first year, they'll say, oh, we like your credit, so there's no annual fee for you. We want to offer you this approved credit card with, whatever interest rate. But then next year, you see a charge on your credit card for $99, and you're like, what is this $99? Or you don't even look at your statement and you get charged and you didn't even know. So you want to keep an eye out for that annual fee. You should not be paying an annual fee. There's no reason for you to be paying an annual fee. There are so many credit cards out there that offer okay rates without you having to pay $100 a year to have their credit card. Some credit cards offer an awards program where if you go to, 10,000, they're going to give you $100. If you go to 20, it's $200. Those are rewards, or it could be also some type of air awards. All right. So cash advances. This is where it gets a little tricky with cash advances. The fine print will tell you what the credit card charge is, right? And then it'll tell you what the cash advance interest rate is. They are not the same. So you can get a credit card from ABC credit card and the interest rate is 14%. But if you want cash advance, if you want to utilize their cash advance on that credit card, that interest rate now has creeped up to 29.99%. Read the fine print. Credit cards are useful, but you have to read everything on the credit card to see if that is for you or you look for another credit card. All right. And one great thing about credit cards, guys, is if you pay it on time, if you pay your bills on time, your credit score will increase. That is why it's good to have a credit card. So then your credit score continues to grow. And we are going to talk about credit cards. Do you guys have any questions in regards to credit cards? All right. All right. So this is another important thing. Tips to manage your credit card. You have to keep your credit card in a safe place. All right. There's so much identity theft out there. And believe it or not, there are pickpocketers out there, even though we're supposed to be 6 feet apart. You want to make sure that your credit card's in a safe place, especially if you use it all the time. You might be at the supermarket and you're putting the credit card in to pay and you just leave it there. And you go and pack up your stuff and you go in your car and you're like, where's my credit card? And now you're wondering, I don't even know the numbers on my credit card. How am I going to call to cancel my credit card? So you need to keep the credit card information safe as well. This is why it's important also to have online with your credit cards. So then you could log on and then call the 1-800 number and cancel your credit card if you lost your credit card or report it lost or stolen. It is very important that you do that as soon as you lose your credit card, because people will use your credit card. And sometimes you don't get notified when you use your credit card for $50 here, $100 in another place. You don't get a phone call saying, hi, did you really use this credit card? No. So they can start spending it. So make sure you keep your credit card in a safe place and make sure you have your credit card information in a safe place. Pay balance in full each month to avoid paying interest rate. Yes, that is true. But can we do that all the time? No, because sometimes we overspend or it's Christmas time and we purchase, tons of gifts for our family members. And now we have to pay $1,000 next month. That's going to be difficult. Just know to pay it off sooner than later. The longer that balance stays on your credit card, the interest is running on it. If you see it a couple of years ago, I think it was like 2009, where you started seeing what your balance is, how much you're financing on your credit card, how much it's going to take you to pay it off if you just do minimum payments. So that information is good, to review, but also at the very bottom, it tells you how much interest did you pay this year for not paying your credit card in full. So that's something interesting as well, to look at your credit card and see how much interest you paid for 2020 because you didn't pay it in full each month. And now you have to pay interest. So don't skip payments. You will pay more interest. And this is very true. If you're not paying your credit card every month, at least minimum payment, what happens is you're going to get charged a late fee, which is usually $30 or more. And then your interest rate goes up because now you're considered a risky borrower. Okay. Every credit card does it different, but I want to keep, this is something that you guys should be aware. When you do pay late, that's what happens. You get charged a fee and your credit, the interest rate may go up. What I suggest to do is to call the credit card immediately and let them know you have a hardship or that you simply forgot. Sometimes they will show you a courtesy and waive that late payment. Or they'll say, okay, we noted that you made a mistake and you didn't pay this month, but they won't up the interest rate. So please keep that in mind. Avoid cash advances. They are extremely expensive. The interest rate might be higher than the regular rate for the regular purchases. Avoid charging over the credit limit. That will affect your credit score as well. Pretty much if your limit is 2,000 and now you charge 2,100, that's going to hurt your credit and it's going to put a red flag on the credit card. Quick steps to stop credit card debt. Stop charging. This might seem obvious, but many people avoid this step. Try using your credit card for emergency purchases, or a purchase that you could pay off at the end of the month. That's very important. Use the snowball method. The goal is to pay off your lowest debt first and then tackle the lowest debt first and then tackle the next lowest debt. So you start with one and you move on and you go to the next. That's usually the best way to pay off your debt, but you have to focus on one. If you have several credit cards that you owe, focus on one, then move on to the next. Once you've paid the balance, apply the amount to what you were paying on this card to the next lowest debt. That's exactly what you're going to do. It's a snowball method, and repeat the process until you're debt free. And make micropayments. When you receive extra money, whether if it's your tax return or another stimulus check or a bonus, use that money to pay off the debt. That is the best way. Instead of using that money to go on a shopping spree or go on a spa day, sometimes paying off the debt will make you feel relieved than a spa day. Okay. Now, credit. Just want to make sure, do you guys have any questions in regard credit cards?
No, but thank you for mentioning about the courtesy, because I have I always pay off my cards in full every month. And about a year and a half ago, things just went absolutely haywire. And next thing I know, I was 30 days late. There was interest, there were late charges. And I said to myself, Self, we are not paying this. So I called them up and they were very nice and they waived it because I'd never been late before.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. And honestly, guys, with the pandemic, they understand the biggest problem is ourselves. We're scared to pick up that phone and say, look, I made a mistake. Can you please waive this fee for me? I've been your customer for the last 15 years. You can look at my record. I'll give you an example. It's a personal example. My brother, several years ago, he got into a really bad car accident. He was not able to work for, I don't know, I think it was like 16 months. He shattered his ankles and it was just a bad accident. The first thing he did, because he's listened to me about credit, was he called all 5 of his credit cards that he owed money to. And 4 of the 5 said, send me evidence that you've been in an accident and that you're going to be out of work for the next, 12 months or whatever the time frame. And we will pause on your debt. One said, no, you still have to keep making payments.
Which one was that?
He lives in Florida, my brother. But so I don't know, but like, can you believe it? If he
Yeah.
didn't try, like if he didn't pick up the phone and just say, look, I need some, can you help me out here? 4 out of 5 said, yes, we're going to help you. Let us know when we're going to pause this for you. And this was before the pandemic. So like, it goes to show you, sometimes we just need to pick up the phone and let them know, look, I've been furloughed. I've been let go. Something personal is happening. There's been a family emergency, and they'll work with you sometimes. Sometimes they won't. And then you pay it off and just not be their customer anymore. And you
Yep.
move. There you go. But thank you for sharing. So credit and your future. This is what is good credit history. I hope all of you have at least looked at your credit report once. It's so important. You are entitled to look at your credit report once a year at annualcreditreport.com. So these are purchases that, go on to your credit report, and it shows what your credit score is, whether you have good credit or you have bad credit. So what is your credit score? The credit score indicates your individual credit worthiness. Lenders use this score to determine if you qualify for the loan and what the interest rate and what amount money you can borrow. So what's very important in a credit score, if you see the pie in front of you, the most important is the blue, which is the on-time payment. So if you're paying on time, I want to say a good 35%, let's say the blue is 35%, is going to be your credit score. Now,
Roxy, excuse me.
yes.
Right now on my screen, I'm seeing your first slide still.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't know what happened. Let me
Are
see.
you changing them or Lorraine?
No, I'm changing them.
They're not. Yeah, they're not changing.
Oh, I don't know why. It was doing so good. So what page am I on in the screen? Is it 13 or is it 14?
You're
Right
still.
now you're on page 1.
It didn't move.
Tell me. Oh my goodness, all this time. All right. So let me see. Let me stop the share. Let me try again. Let's see here.
Yep, there we go. Thank you.
Right, there you go. So your credit score. So the blue is 35%. So think of the credit score as a pie. So if you are making your on-time payments every month, paying on time, not being late, 35% of your credit score goes to the on-time payment. 35% goes to capacity use. So what does that mean, capacity use? I have a credit card for $2,000. I've maxed out the credit card to $1,900. I've nearly used the capacity of that entire credit card limit, right? I'm at 1,900 and the limit is 2,000. That's going to affect my credit score negatively. Why? Because it's looking at me as a risky borrower. So the rule of thumb is to use at least under 40% of whatever your credit limit is, so it won't affect your credit score. Okay. I don't know why that is. That is one of the factors in determining your credit score, the amount of capacity that you're using. The closer you are at the limit, the lower your score will go. Okay. So another portion is the length of your credit history. If you've had the same credit card for 15, 20 years, that's good. The different types of credit you have a student loan, you have a car loan, you have a mortgage, all that are factors. And then your past credit applications. So your inquiries, how many times have you applied for a credit? These are all key factors when applying for a credit report. This website right in front of you, www.annualcreditreport.com, is where you can get your free credit report. There are 3 major credit reporting companies: Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion. What's in a credit report besides your credit history? Your name is on your credit report. I know it sounds basic. It's like, okay, yeah, your name. But the way you spell your name, whether you have a middle initial, whether you're a junior, a senior, all of that is on your credit report. And if it's wrong, you need to fix it, and you could fix it online. You can fix it within 30 days. It will be fixed. Okay. You can go online And if your name is misspelled, if there's a middle initial that's on there that shouldn't be because that's your mom and not you, you need to fix that. Okay. It also lists bankruptcies, judgment, tax liens, and similar matters of public records. So that is everything on your credit report that shows up. Oh, I forgot to mention your employment and where you've lived in the past. So if your address is wrong on your credit report, that could be a reason why your credit is slightly lower too. If your name is spelled incorrectly, this can boost your credit scores by 1 or 2 points when you fix them. So it's worth looking online to see if your information is correct. So your credit rating can impact your ability to get a student loan, obtain credit cards, finance the purchase of a car. We all not acquire a job. Now, I work for a financial institution, and before I got hired, they pulled my credit report. My husband, when he was applying for NYPD, but he's a fireman, he's not a cop, they pulled his credit report. And so it's not just financial institution, it's government, it's state jobs as well. It's the point I'm trying to make here. Also, not just when you're buying a house, when you're going for a mortgage, but when you're renting nowadays, right? Sometimes the landlord says, I want to see your credit report before I let you live in my apartment, because they want to see your history. They want to see if you're paying on time, because that is like the school report, your history and how you pay things. So that is why having good credit can impact any of these things that I just spoke about. There is a note there. If reported to the check systems, you won't be able to open a checking account at a bank. This is completely different. Credit report and the check systems are two different types of systems. One deals with your checking history with other banks when you're looking for a new checking account home. So I just wanted to note that. And tips to increase your credit score: pay bills on time, pay down your credit cards, use the credit cards as little as possible. See here, it says 50%, keep credit debt below 50% of your available limit. This can raise your score as much as 18 points. Keep it under 40, it'll raise it even more. Review and fix inaccurate credit reports and information. Do you guys have any questions? Because this is one of the last slides. It's about scams, but I just wanted to stop and just see if you guys have any questions regarding credit reports.
I do.
Okay.
Okay. Say if someone used your address in the past, does that affect your credit?
Used your address or used your name for a joint account?
Let's say my son had a friend stay with us for a little bit of time. And then one day we went, I don't know why we were looking up the address, but I noticed on our address, it had like people who lived at this address and his name was still there. And I'm like, I hadn't seen him in 7 years, but yet his name, and I just thought that was weird. And I don't know, I just thought it was weird. Like, I don't know why I even looked up my address, but when I saw his name, I just thought that was strange.
You could remove it.
Yeah.
Yes, you could remove it easily. It was on your credit report, correct?
Well, not on a credit report, but I was wondering, does the fact that somebody stayed at your house, would that affect, or just curious?
It's not gonna affect it.
Oh, okay.
The way it would affect is if the two of you were on a credit card together as a joint. Yes.
Yeah.
Whatever debt he has now is your debt if you're a joint account, or so as long as you're fine.
Oh, okay. Like I said, it was just sort of was weird that his name was still showing up on my address. So, anyway, it's okay.
You're fine. And please look at your credit report at least once a year. If not because of your credit score, because of this last topic that I'm going to talk about today, identity theft. Guys, America has been hit with identity theft left and right, not just with seniors, but with even the youth. Even kids are getting their Social Security stolen because adults have bad credit. Okay, so this is a big deal. If you're going to look at your credit, do it because you want to make sure somebody did not steal your identity. Okay, so these identity thieves steal personal data too, like your driver's license, establish credit and bank accounts in your name, steal your money. There's been, I don't know how many stories on Lifeline about identity theft. Okay, and it's real. It happens. It's not Lifeline, it's Lifetime, the channel. Yes, there's been so many stories, but I want you guys to make sure that this personal information you want to keep safe, right? Especially like these are examples that I'm going to talk about next. How can your data fall into the wrong hands? Shoulder surfing. I'm here talking to you guys. I'm typing in my social security and there's somebody over my shoulder looking at my numbers, or even with your cell phone, guys. How many times you type in front of somebody your past, no, or somebody calls you and they're, oh yeah, my mother's maiden name is blah, blah, blah. And everybody in the room can hear it. You guys have to be very careful with this type of information. If you are in public, you say, please give me a call back. I will talk to you later. That information, criminals can definitely take your information and try to get your personal data to help them steal your identity. They may be following you and just waiting for you to say that word of your mother's maiden name. And they hear you because you're there in the supermarket saying it out to verify it for some type of phone call. Dumpster diving. A lot of people keep shredders in their houses, in their residential homes because of this. Thieves actually go to your garbage looking for pre-approved credit cards that they activate without your knowledge. Okay. And then there's also emails. Criminals send unsolicited emails to you, which seems to be a credible company asking for personal information because the email seems trustworthy. People provide the requested information. Be very careful with what you open with your email. It can be a virus that can take your personal information from your computer. So be very careful, guys. So these are just some tips to protect yourself. Be cautious with your mail, shred important information before disregarding, protect your social security number. Don't even say the last 4 digits when you're out and about to whoever tries to call to verify who you are. Be very careful. Those 4 digits are required to so many things, right? Check your credit report annually. That should be number 1 on your list. Use a passcode on your mobile devices. I think people do that now. I think it's important that you do, because somebody should steal your cell phone today. That's a lot of personal information that they're walking away with. Check your bank accounts regularly. Update passwords and social media accounts. Avoid sharing personal information on social media. So it's never too soon to learn, good financial habits. Banks offer different accounts. We talked about, 3 different accounts today: the checking, the savings, the CDs. We talked about the ATM cards, the debit cards, credit cards. So much. We talked the importance about emergency funds and using your credit cards wisely and protecting your identity. That's all I have. And, I want to thank you guys for, asking questions and keeping this interactive. I really enjoyed this intimate